Welcome back, everyone, to yet another episode of Two and a Half Gays, the all-inclusive podcast for the everyday millennial queen.
I'm Quinlan.
And I am Dino.
Another week of isolation. Do we want to talk about the news? Welcome to State of the Gay, where we talk about pop culture, and queer-related news and just news that's kind of sweeping the world and all that jazz. So the first news article is that Russia want to pass an anti-LGBT traditional values bill, which basically contains they want to ban equal marriage from ever being passed in the country. And they also want to reverse a law in Russia where you can change your gender on your birth certificate, which is obviously really horrible for people who are transgender and for people who are non-binary because they won't get to marry who they want to, first of all, because obviously marriage equality isn't allowed, and also that they just can't be who they are. There's been a lot of political protests happening, but nothing's really going on. A lot of celebrities are obviously backing the queer people in the country, but I don't think anything's going to happen.
Who in particular is supporting queer rights in Russia?
Madonna. So Madonna recently came out and said that she was forced to pay $1 million for supporting the LGBTQ rights movement in Russia. This was, I think, last year. Well, she obviously came out saying it was disgusting, and she didn't pay the bill. She just left the country and said, "I'm not coming back." But she's one major person. There's a lot of pop singers who have been banned from Russia and have come out supporting the community. I think Miley Cyrus, Ariana Grande, Beyonce is one of them. But yeah, a bunch of mainstream pop artists. I guess in other news of European countries and disappointing news with the LGBTI community is that recently the president of Poland got re-elected, and he's known for having anti-LGBTQI plus views, and so he's made sure that marriage equality is not going to happen. He's actually segregated communities within the country, within suburbs where there's gay-free zones where you're not allowed to express yourself. He's also banned any kind of political advertisements for LGBTQ people at all, and there's no representation allowed in the media because it's apparently brainwashing kids into being gay. But yeah, that's another horrible thing that's happened.
And also in Poland.
What else happened in Poland, Tina?
Poland punishes queer activist with pretrial detention.
Oh yeah, there's that as well.
So there's a non-binary activist who has been placed in pretrial detention because she was pushing for basically LGBT protests around the country, which sucks. And there is some good news, yeah?
Yeah, so some good news is that Queensland has become the first Australian state to ban gay conversion therapy. And that happened just this month in August, which is amazing.
It's crazy that it's still a thing.
I know, I don't understand. I think in the UK, they're meant to be passing a bill that's going to ban conversion therapy because I saw Declan McKenna retweet it. But I'm not sure if it has been passed yet, if it is banned, but I just know that it was in the process of being banned. I'm pretty sure, Boris Johnson, he said that the pandemic is more important than that, which is horrible.
In other news, this is slightly... It sucks, but not as sucky. YouTube is ending its community captions feature. So this is basically where you or I could make captions for different videos. We could upload them and then have them public for everyone to see. So this way, if you're deaf or if you are someone who just enjoys looking at subtitles, say it's in a different language, you may not be able to see that content anymore. And deaf creators are not happy about this.
No, that's terrible.
If you're a deaf creator, you don't talk in your videos, obviously. And so you rely mostly on hand gestures and subtitling. Subtitling is very expensive, and so most people don't tend to do it. Instead, they rely on the community of like deaf activists and deaf organizers to write up captions, and without them this will be a lot more difficult.
So this week's topic is female empowerment and feminism. So I'm going to be talking about WAP, the smash summer hit by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, which is a song about female empowerment. It's about owning your sexuality. It's basically flipping the gender norms of what men usually have in the rap hip hop genre, which is sexualizing women and treating them as kind of like a second-grade human. So I'm going to dive into that, get ready for a whole history lesson on rap music and sexism. One of the reasons that the hip-hop and rap genre is so popular is due to its honesty in the lyrics. And it's been a way for black people to tell their own stories, which has proven to be an issue for stereotypes such as gang violence and drug dealing and murder. But that's also proven to be something that black people have used to say, well, we're not only allowed to be accepted when we're well-behaved black people, we can also be accepted when we have flaws and when we are doing bad things, just like white people are. Because in history, black people were only allowed on television and in entertainment when they were well-behaved, and white people obviously had a wide diversity of different personalities that were represented. But also on saying that, the hip-hop and rap genre has been great for black people because it's also a genre that they excel in. So they get to talk about money and their riches and their wealth and the cars they have. Like, that's all great because they can be role models to kids who aren't as wealthy, I suppose, and can see a future for themselves. Like, well, one type of future that isn't being stuck in a certain stereotype. But the negative of rap and hip-hop is that while men get to flaunt their wealth and their power and dominance, women are usually seen as second-grade humans, and they're seen as more as props for men to kind of exploit their wealth on them. So I wanted to say some lyrics that are from popular rap artists or hip-hop artists, and the first one is... And also, I'm only quoting these words, they're not words that I actually use in my everyday life or that I believe in. Just to state that before I say them. So the first one is, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. Lick on these nuts and suck the D, which is a song by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, and it's from, well, title is called Still DRR. The next one is, this is really disgusting, but my little sister's birthday, she'll remember me. For a gift I had 10 of my boys take her virginity, which is a song by Eminem and Bizarre on a track called The Amityville. And another one is, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex, why I made that bitch famous, which is by Kanye West in his song called Famous. And obviously those three lyrics just kind of echo the message that women aren't respected in the music industry, and specifically the hip-hop rap industry. They don't have a space for women there, or they haven't in the past, and men really don't care if they have a voice. It's like men are always undermining women in the music industry, but especially in hip-hop and rap. So also in music videos, women have always been used as props and are lured by money to assert the alpha male role. They're constantly ridiculed for being sexually promiscuous and cheating on men, whereas men aren't held to the same standard. An example of that is a song which is widely popular called Loyal by Chris Brown, in which he sings about women only wanting partnerships with men who have money, but then he talks about himself stealing those women from poor men, which when you think about it is really ironic and really stupid. And so another point is that violence against women is also normalized in rap music, and obviously it's used to put the male in a place of power. Another example is a song by Eminem in which he dedicated to his ex called Kim, and in this song he imagines getting revenge on his ex-wife and murdering her. And in another song he talks about beating Lana Del Rey and sexually abusing Iggy Azalea, and the song's called Kill Shot. And it's just really surprising that Eminem has kind of gotten away with that behavior. I think in any other genre, and especially if the song might have been by a woman, they wouldn't have gotten away with that. So the violence against women part of my research is also by a Russian reporter called Paramosha. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, and it's from The Youth Reporter, which is a European journalist site. So I want to talk about why WAP is so important and why media representation is so important right now, and that has always been really important because a lot of people are kind of dismissing it. There was a study done in 1995 by Christine Baragonen and Gordon Nagayama in which they got two groups of men, and one group of men listened to like aggressive rap music, which was sexually explicit and kind of had those themes of dominating women, and the other men listened to rap that was more general and the messages were more peaceful, I suppose. And so they got photographs and they put them in front of the men, and they chose them to, I think, pick out photographs which kind of appealed to them. And obviously the men who listened to aggressive rap music picked out the more... Oh, and the photos were either neutral or they had depictions of violence against women, or it was the opposite where men and women were getting along in the photos. And the men who listened to aggressive rap picked out photos which obviously were more negative, and the men who listened to more neutral rap picked out photos that were more positive. So that's just a study that kind of caters towards the idea that media has a big impact on how we are in our everyday lives and how we treat people. So the hip-hop and rap genre has exclusively told specifically black women that they are worth as much as a man places on them and that their bodies are for their own treatment. Oh yeah, and if they venture outside of this character, then they will be punished, basically. So now, finally, I get to talk about WAP, the actual song, where we've finally reached an era of multiple black women coming into the mainstream music area. So people like Doja Cat, Megan Thee Stallion have come onto the scene in 2020, and people like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B have also returned to the spotlight, and I think it's the first time we've ever seen more than one black female hip-hop artist kind of be on the charts. And I think and now WAP has been number one. It's going on to its second week being number one. And I think it's so important because in the song, Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B rap about their sexuality, and they rap about how they want men to pleasure their bodies. It's not really about them serving men. In the music video, it's also not them grinding on men. It's not them being overpowered by men. It's not kind of catering towards the male gaze. It's this kind of bright, colorful music video where they love their bodies and they get to dance with all these people of color in the background as well. There's been people who have criticized the song. So one of them is Ben Shapiro, and he says WAP is what the feminist movement is all about. It's not really about women being treated as independent, full-rounded human beings. It's about wet ass P-word. He couldn't even say the word pussy. He had to say P-word. And people said it's really funny that he's so critical of the song because he supports Donald Trump, who has, been criticized for sexual abuse and has also been outright in saying that he condones sexual abuse by saying, most infamous words he said is grab him by the pussy. And so there was an article by Michelle Sheffield, who writes for The Conversation, and she says this kind of view basically dismisses sex workers completely and dismisses women being sexual beings as a whole. Why does a man have to say anything about feminism, and why does he have to be the one to say that sex isn't a part of feminism and women loving their body? It doesn't have anything to do with that, when men for years have always been able to rap and sing about their female interests and their body parts. So yeah. Another person who had a lot to say about WAP was CeeLo Green, and he basically, just to summarize his quote that's in front of me, he just said that it's really disappointing and unfortunate, and that music isn't as smart anymore, it's not as real anymore, and that women should be more respectful and not be so disgusting, I suppose. That was really ironic as well, because CeeLo Green has always sung about women also being money hungry, and he's also been accused of sexual assault in the past. So it's basically it's really disappointing because from what I've seen on YouTube and on Twitter, there's a lot of positivity going on, but when you kind of leave the progressive bubble that we're in, I think most men in particular are just dismissing Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's song and saying that it's just for sex and it's just for sex and it's just for shock value. Whereas in Cardi B they also aren't just two random black artists who want to shock people with their song. Cardi B studied politics in university, and Megan Thee Stallion's currently studying healthcare in an online course. And both of them have been very outspoken in their political beliefs on feminism, on Black Lives Matter, on equality in general. And just on policies in America that would kind of benefit everyday people. So I think this song was really targeted to just uplift women and say that sex is okay for them, to love your body is okay, to enjoy music is okay as well, because there's not a lot of rap music for women out there either that kind of gives them a voice. So both of them say that you can love sex and be a fully realized person, which is what a lot of the negative critics have kind of missed the point of. In one of the lyrics, Megan Thee Stallion says, "I'll run down on him for I have an N-word running me." Her saying that she has, as a black woman, she has the capabilities to create her own future and that she doesn't need a man to kind of do it for her. It goes against what a lot of male rap singers, artists have said in their music beforehand, where they kind of say that women only want money and women only want sex from them and they only want to marry them for certain things. But yeah, I guess it's also important to remember that before WAP, there were a lot of female artists who did talk about their sexuality, such as Trina, Foxy Brown, Little Kim, and Missy Elliott. I think one of the first people I heard was actually Cupcake, who started her journey years ago, and I think that's another thing that's really important, because in the past female rappers have always pitted themselves against each other. That's why I really like Cardi B more than Nicki Minaj, because I think in the past Nicki Minaj has always been outspoken in saying that she's the best female rapper and she's the only female rapper. That's whereas Cardi B got someone like Megan Thee Stallion and all these other people featured in her music video that needed a voice and needed more popularity. I guess in conclusion, WAP is the start of an amazing point in feminism, an amazing point point in musical culture, and I think it's only the beginning for the genre. I don't know what I would call the genre. I think you call it female hip-hop feminism, I suppose. I can't wait to see what comes in the future for all of these female rap artists. I think it's about time that they got a voice, and I think it's about time that women finally get to explicitly talk about their sexual bodies themselves and not include men in the equation, or include them as rather a second part of the equation, not a dominant part of it. I think it's also a great start for black feminism, because in the past feminism's kind of been catered towards and voiced by white women, or largely white women, and this time Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion have taken the reins in it themselves and also given a voice to all the black women who are on Twitter, who are on social media, and it's given them a new light. So yeah, I think it's really amazing.
As you've mentioned, there's been a lot of different and diverse responses to WAP as a song and the music video that was released with it. What are your thoughts on the argument that something as sexually explicit as that music video has set feminism back? Is that something you agree with, or no?
No, I don't think so. I've read things about that, and most of the people say, because I think that's one part of feminism where they think like women being sexual and women revealing themselves in certain ways negative. And it is negative in a way, if it was like done by a man, like in movies, you can see that's called like the male gaze, when a woman is like only in the film because they want to draw in men. But I think this song, most men are kind of almost repulsed by it because they explicitly talk about their genitalia and they talk about what they're going to do to men. Do you think it's negative? But when you listen to the song, like what were your first thoughts?
The song or the message?
Everything, yeah.
Tick for both of it. I really like the song, and I think the message is great. I think what Colin was saying before about the lack of female rappers and it being mostly a male-dominated space, it's good. It's not just rap, of course. All music has kind of enclaves where it's mostly male-dominated, but yeah, especially in rap. And it's good that there's a female rappers who are talking about the genitalia. Just in general, we always feel uncomfortable talking about it. Like Quinlan was pointing out, like, we feel so, at least certain rappers and the public at large is so used to hearing and listening to men talk about their dicks and how big it is, how important they are, blah, blah, blah. But it's good that there is a song that is just about female pleasure and female empowerment, because it's really rare and we need more of it.
I think that we can all agree, unfortunately, that historically speaking, the music industry hasn't always been as progressive as we would have hoped or liked it to be. They've treated a lot of people of colour, female identifying individuals and women who wanted to be musicians and artists pretty poorly. They didn't give them equal opportunity for whatever reason, and that's like a whole conversation for another time. Now that we live in a time where there are so many successful female rappers and musicians who are still to this day attempting to not only create space for themselves in the music industry, but also for the generations which are to follow after them, do you think that the rap scene / that aspect of the music industry will ever be able to change in the way that they hope and dream of, or do you think it will be a constant battle?
Oh, well, from what I understand, the music industry has been very protective of its higher-up executives, and they've basically done everything they can to not fire the people who have caused a huge amount of pain and stress on female employees and artists and whatnot. So, no, it won't get better.
They had those percentages last year or even the year before about the percentage of male artists who have been booked in comparison to female artists, and it was always, I think one year it was like they were all like, for one massive festival it was like all male artists and there were like 2 female artists as like headliners, which is ridiculous.
I think it's fair to say, just like with any industry, not only the music industry, when it comes to change and equality and equal opportunities, it should occur on every level, not just on a face value. So I feel like often when people think of the music industry, they often just think about the side that they see mostly, which is the touring artists. So they often are like, yep, we'll have more female artists touring at the music festival, for example. And that's a fantastic thing. But I also think in order for there to be real change, it has to be change on every level, not only on the artists who are touring, but also the people who they employ behind the scenes, whether it be roadies, the music production team, tour management, A&R, marketing, like it has to be on every level. It can't just be just what the public see, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so true actually. And I guess a good point might be that because these companies have been in such hot water in the past years, especially like last year and this year, are they doing a lot of these things for the sake of saving their behinds, or are they actually making change? So that's one thing to think about. I hope that things can change, but both your points about men behind the scenes, like executives, like CEOs of companies, haven't been punished for what they've done to their artists and their employees. Because one example is like Dr. Dre is still producing music and is still a part of big companies, even though the Kesha issue was very public.
Sorry, just a quick correction. It's not Dr. Dre. I think you mean Dr. Luke when referring to the Kesha situation.
Oh, Dr. Luke's shit. Sorry, yeah, not Dr. Dre. Why did two people have Doctor and then one big example? There'd be so many more, but that's the one public one, and even then they couldn't even get him kicked out of the music industry. So if that's saying anything, then it's quite sad. So talking about women being mistreated, specifically in the music industry, Dino, you're going to be speaking about Britney Spears and the Free Britney Spears movement, which has been very widely talked about right now, especially on Twitter and social media.
Right, yeah. Let's talk about Free Britney, motherfuckers. You know Free Britney. Have you heard of Britney, bitch?
It's Britney, bitch.
At the beginning of this year, my Instagram was full of people commenting on Britney Spears posts asking to free Britney. This was confusing, and so I tried to figure out what was happening. So I'm going to take you both back to the mystical age of 2007. The housing market is doing so well. No one knows it's about to hit. And Britney Spears releases her latest album. But around this time, she has a complete mental breakdown. She's in the paparazzi a whole bunch. Her life is seemingly going off the rails. So the next year, in 2008, she gets put into place in what's called a conservatorship. So basically, it's a legal term. It's an arrangement where you have a guardian, and that guardian takes control over your finances and a lot of your lifestyle decisions. So if you want to vote, how you work, how you can spend your money. And there's varying different levels to them. And each of them are obviously unique and different. But in Britney's case, it got placed into her father. And her father's name is Jamie Spears. And so this has been the case for the past 12 years now. And obviously she is a grown adult woman at this point, and she cannot spend any money basically without her father's approval. And so this has been a long going issue where many people have tried to get her off the conservatorship, hence the Free Britney movement. Where this has started to take a turn more recently, why it's in the news recently, is that the case every year goes up for renewal. So Britney and her father have to go to court and basically say whether or not she has to still have this conservatorship. And there's been a number of people who have seen into Britney's Instagram posts more than maybe she intended to. So, for example, earlier in the year, she posted a video of herself and someone said in the comments, Britney, wear yellow in your next video if you need help. And so in the next video, she wore yellow, and then people started to assume, oh, Britney must be crying out for help. This was especially true because there's a bunch of Britney Spears podcasts, which I've also just learnt about. One that's called Britney's Gram. So again, it's specifically focused on her Instagram. And in early last year, they had this emergency episode where they had an anonymous person come on and claim that that the father was abusing his position, that there was serious problems with it, and this has just gotten into a giant tailspin ever since then. There was one incident in particular that was very interesting. Oh, there's like change.org petitions trying to get her out of the conservatorship. And earlier this year, as it was going up for renewal, Britney Spears said that she did not want her father to be the conservator anymore. He took a year off for health reasons, so he wanted to come back on. But in that meantime, in that interim year, she had a new person come in and basically manage her conservatorship. This person's name is Jodie Montgomery. And so Jodie was managing the case for the past year, and Britney Spears wants to ban her father from going back to being a conservator and keeping Jodie on for the time being. The thing that people may not understand is that Britney Spears does not want to leave the conservatorship, hence the kind of oddity of Free Britney. Like, she doesn't want to leave it per se. She just wants a different person managing it. And she's spoken in the past about maybe eventually she will want to leave it, but at the time being, she's found that there's a lot of benefits to it. It gives her life rhythm and meaning that may not otherwise be there. Then it gets into some of the more weirder issues that have emerged, like the fact that people claim that the father is extorting a huge amount of money. Britney Spears is obviously worth tons of money. She has about $2.7 million in cash as of last year, and $57 million in non-cash, which is other non-tangibles, claiming that he is taking a bunch of money. But regardless, that case, I think yesterday, got to the point where they've now delayed it until next year to decide on what's going to happen. So the current arrangement will stay and they'll decide it next year. But yeah, that's the crazy world of Britney Spears' conservatorship.
Oh my god. Is it true that she's also not allowed to vote? And she's also so she is allowed to vote.
No, yeah. She can't vote without the father's or the conservators' approval.
Oh, and she's not allowed to see. Is she only allowed to see her children at certain times as well, under supervision?
Yeah, she has some agreement with the husband or with her ex, whether she can only see them at certain times, like a normal custody battle.
Yeah. But she's not, like, locked in her house, is she? Like, she's allowed to leave.
Yeah. She performs every night or almost every night at Las Vegas. She has a Las Vegas residency there, which is specifically something she doesn't want to do anymore. She wants to stop performing at this point in her life and like take care of her kids and just work on herself, I guess. And like obviously feel for Britney. I want whatever she wants, and so she just seems so lovely. There are all these videos. If you ever go onto her Instagram account, it's one of the loveliest places. She's always just taking photos of her kids and posting videos about them and the LGBTQ community.
Oh my god, yes. So wholesome.
But yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully fans can calm down a little bit, putting a lot of attention to this case, and I don't think Britney necessarily wants that. She just wants to change. She just wants to stop her father from being the conservator, so please calm down.
I think most of the people who are vocal about the Free Britney movement, I would say, are gay men, because that's a larger proportion of her fan base. Do you think, like, in terms of talking about feminism, do you think it's wrong for them to have this voice to Britney when she herself hasn't like put a wide, like you said, hasn't put a wide light on herself, I suppose, and on the issue?
Oh yeah, no, like Britney doesn't want him there for very obvious reasons. He's definitely pressuring her to keep going at this Las Vegas residency, which is making a huge amount of money, but she doesn't particularly want to do it. And so yeah, there's just tons of situations like that. Like, it's very weird in some cases to go back to being a child. That's essentially what this has become, where she can't manage any of her finances. She doesn't feel like her own person. And, you know, she still wants a conservatorship. She still wants someone to manage her finances and whatnot and look after her. But she doesn't necessarily want it to be her father, because their interests may not be aligned. They may not be in the same place.
Hypothetically, say if Britney were to come out with a video, say tomorrow, for example, and in it she seems very healthy, happy, sane, stable, nothing out of the ordinary. And she says in the video she's really grateful for all of the support and love that everyone's been giving her, but she wishes the movement to stop. Do you think then that the Free Britney movement would take that on board and listen to her wishes and cease the movement? And will it die down, or do you think it would continue?
I think people have... There's like two groups of people, right? There are people who are conspiracy theorists at their nature, and then they look into things like what color dress she's wearing as proof of something. And then there are, and those people will, you know, they'll come up with whatever they want to come up with. There's a second group of people who are listening to Britney, and they would probably just respect her wishes. But at the same time, like, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? Like you were saying in your last segment, women should be able to speak for themselves. And so if Britney has made very clear what she wants to happen, but people may not be listening to it. I should also mention there are tons of protests going on in Los Angeles about this. There are rallies and whatnot. Yeah, there are people in Los Angeles who have got placards and signs, and they have rallies. They have some people who have stitched Free Britney into their masks. These are all outside the courthouse where this is going on. Yeah, some people take it very personally, and I understand where it comes from. Like, I assumed before doing all the research that Britney didn't want to be in this conservatorship and that the father was doing all these sleazy things. I can't remember reading it where exactly, but yeah, that's what I assumed going into this. But yeah, when you actually listen to her, she says something slightly different.
Yeah, I was the same. Like, before listening to what you had to say, I thought she didn't want to be in it either. When did she say that specifically?
This was the beginning of this year.
Yeah, because I read something about Britney when the dad was in charge of her conservatorship. I don't know if this is true, but apparently Britney's sister said that Britney herself started doing a lot of pictures and themes around being in a cage because she felt controlled by her father.
And like, obviously, I don't want to make it like I'm coming off on the dad's side. Like, the dad is probably awful and we should just listen to what Britney wants. But yeah. I should also say, one of the weirder conspiracy theories is there are some people who believe that Britney Spears deliberately follows 116 accounts on Instagram, which she does. She follows 116 people. And that if you flip 116 upside down, it reads what number?
911.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. People have gone that far. That's so Silly.
So yeah, that's the mind of a conspiracy theorist, is that they will find any and all information that reinforces what they already believe, and that no other proof will ever convince them otherwise.
Not even Britney herself saying so.
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
She's lying, Dino, don't you know? She's just saying it with her cameras. Wow, that was eye-opening though.
But yeah, this is the only conspiracy theory that I've like half believed, by the way. Like I'm not normally into conspiracy theories, but like I could see it.
Oh god. Imagine Britney reading these. Britney has already said that she wants to stay in the conservatorship, but on her own terms. So I think that's the most important thing. I think people really need to calm down and respect her wishes and really do proper research before speaking on her behalf, because it's her life and she needs to be happy. And I would be really uncomfortable if like thousands of people were making decisions for me and making my life maybe seem scarier than it actually is and more negative than it is. So yeah, that's definitely my point of view. Thank you for listening to another episode of 2.5 Gays. You've been with Quinlan.
Dino?
You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. That is all under 2.5 Gays. And we also have a playlist which is called Real Queer Artists that you can listen to. Thank you next and stay WAPy.